Thank you so much, Faris, for being here. I am so excited to get into this and hear all your millions of lessons that you've got. But you want to first take like 20 seconds to just tell us a little bit about yourself and exactly what you do.
Okay, great to be here. So what do? I'm a strategy and emotional intelligence consultant. I help teams and individuals be more effective in how they work together, in the impact they have with others, because life isn't just about having great ideas, it's about making sure other people buy into them. And that's what I do, either through facilitation or training.
Yeah, and I know like most people are gonna ask you like how you got into this and all that stuff. But I'm actually curious about like your real life. Like what happens yesterday? Like how does this show up?
How does this show up? Yeah, I mean, yesterday here was it was a weekend, right? So yesterday, um, great day, beautiful sunshine here in London. Hopefully, wherever all your viewers, listeners are, also beautiful sunshine. And yesterday was a Sunday. A typical Sunday for me involves. I'm very sad. I'm in my 40s, but I still pop in and see my family. So I see my parents. Very important part of what being me means all about, and both for inspiration, for challenge, and just for general, familial duties. Absolutely lovely. And you know what? When you run your own business, having support, having a challenge is really vital. And it doesn't matter if it comes from your parents, your friends, your peers. It's a large part of making you an even better at what you do.
Yeah. So how many years have you been doing this for? 20 years or so?
Well, I've been working for 20 years. I've been running my own company for about 4 years now.
4 years. And when you were doing this before, you were doing in the previous 16 years, you were doing similar type of work
I'm
or
doing similar type of thing. I've actually had a bit of a few changes along the way. I started as a school teacher, believe it or not. I used to teach internationally in different countries around the world, which was amazing to get all those experiences. I then went and worked for a big energy
one
company.
second, what was your favorite country to work in?
It's like asking somebody who their favorite child is, right? All countries are amazing for different reasons. I can tell you about some of the great experiences. I lived in Nepal, I lived in El Salvador, I lived in Palestine, I lived in Spain. Each of them is completely different, and I love them all to bits.
Okay, so after that, what did you say?
After that, I went and worked for a big energy company. All right, so think big oil and gas, big water, electric. All right, so quite different, and loads of experiences there. I did everything from working on the telephones to being in their strategy team, deciding on what big investments they'd make, and then I moved over to being a strategy consultant. So this is the what people think is the glamorous life. You travel a lot internationally. You help big companies solve their strategic problems. And I did that for 12 years. So that was great fun, but
And
gave me.
then you build your own business using
Then
that.
I built my own business. Yeah, 4 years ago, I decided, you know what? I know exactly what I need to do. I know what I'm passionate about. Let's do this. And then obviously there was a pandemic happened 6 months later. So whoa.
So let's go deeper into that. Like, what was the decision
Okay.
that made you do it? What did you have to do it? What were some of the challenges that came up and things like that?
Yeah, right. And it's very hard, right? So I'd had a very successful career. I was doing really well in a company. So to turn my back on that, a lot of people thought I was crazy. But do you know what? I realized that I was a bit bored, right? I was kind of treading water, which is a total luxury to have. And to go, no, I've still got enough of a career. I've still got like 25 years plus to work, right? Do I want to be bored every single day, or do I want to continue to have fun, learn? So I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to step away and leap into it. So, like I say, a lot of people thought I was crazy. Like, why do that, right? Why leave the security? But that's what was important to me. And do you know what? Today, for the last 4 years, the only thing I measure on a weekly basis is how much fun I've had that week.
Oh,
And
I love that. How do you measure that?
well, you just ask yourself. I ask myself and the team on a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun have you had this week? So we kind of clear everyone's brains by doing a fun activity, and then we ask the question, and then we track it, right? And do you know what? The more fun we have, the more money we make. So
Oh,
don't
yeah.
don't worry about making the money. Have fun. If you have fun, others see that, they'll buy into it, and it takes care of itself.
How do you make sure that like to make the work fun, even like the boring work, right? There's some work that you could say, oh, that's fun, but some work.
Well, don't take on the boring work. I have that luxury, right? I specifically picked and chose the elements of my job that I really enjoy. But equally, if you're bored, then there's I work in a services industry, right? I work with people, clients, and it doesn't matter if you're doing this, whether if you're bored, there's a fair chance the other person's bored. So let your energy flow through to them. And a lot of this came from my school teaching days, right? If kids were bored in the classroom, they're not learning. They're less likely to absorb stuff. It's the same by the time we're now in the boardrooms with the CEOs and the CFOs, right? Make it fun, make it simple, make it engaging, and they will get more out of it. So yeah, you know, and a lot of what I do is reading the room, and people will give you cues of when they're bored, right? Checking their phone, looking at their watches, legs pointing towards the door, getting twitchy. Read those cues, change, make it, inject something, and you're good to go.
Awesome. I like that. Okay, so let's go back to building your business. This was something that people thought you were crazy, or something that you were willing to take on the challenge, which I absolutely love, because like, right, we're not just meant to be floating through life. What was the beginning like? So you made the decision. Did you like start building it while you were still at work? Did you quit your job and then start building it? How did that work?
No, I'm a firm believer, right? There's no such thing as multitasking. If you do something side a desk, you're going to get a lame ass result. So go all in. But I'm a strategist, so I spend a little bit of time coming up with a strategy and a concrete plan. But then you got to get going. You got to get doing. Get out there. Tell people your plan. Knock on doors, right? Because it could just stay in your head too much, and you'll learn from the responses. Just like reading the room. See what response you're getting back. Do people understand it? Are they interested in it? Right. So this is what I did. And as I said, I was getting a little bit of momentum, building slowly, and then the pandemic came and killed all that. So it was like a death knell for the business. 6 months of no work. But you either get disheartened by that, or you say, do you know what? I've learned a lot in the first 6 months. I've got 6 months to consolidate here. Go again. It's like the rebirth. So when people were ready to buy again, I was ready, and I came out of the blocks, and it was much better second time round. All right. I
So
knew.
let's go back first to the first before the
Yeah.
pandemic. What were some of like the key actions that you did that helped you get traction and helped you really build?
So if you think about if you go back in time, like it's very rare that we have a global event that everyone is experiencing at the same time. So, and there was an element of shock. So it wasn't the time to go knocking on people's doors, say, "Hey, do you want to buy some services?"
So before that, I want to get to the pandemic in a minute, but I first want to understand, before the pandemic hit, when you left your job and you were starting, what were some of the actions you were doing then?
So like I say, come up with a plan, right? Come up with a
So what was
strategy.
the specific things you did? Like, I want to hear a little bit more specific. Like, what
Okay.
were some of the actions that you specifically took? What were some of the things that failed? What were some of the things that like helped you be successful?
Yeah. So when I talk about plans as strategists, have a vision. What is it? Where are you headed? What is your vision? What is your direction? What are the options to get you there? Right? So think of all the products you might offer, all the services, write them all down, and then pick the ones that you're going to deliver the most value. Don't do all of them, right? Be specific, be intentional. So I did all this, right? You can see a whiteboard behind me. I used a lot of whiteboards. I did all the stuff I do with clients on myself, right?
Was
Then
that like challenging, or it was like, oh, I'm so used to doing this, so like I could just do it for myself?
it is challenging. I mean, but I'm much more proficient because I do this day in, day out with clients. I challenge them. What's your vision? But articulating your own, because doing it on your own is a bit of an echo chamber. So I list all the things I came up with. Like I said, I came up with the rough nucleus of what is it I was going to sell? How was I going to communicate those things? Who was I going to target? Right. And that was only ever going to be 80% right, or 70, 80% right, because I don't know what I don't know. That's why you have to then get going. So then I got knocking on doors, right? I had to work out what is the best way, because it doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's toothpicks or $1 million computer systems. You have to go knocking on doors. You have to find the perfect technique. Is it sending emails? Is it picking up the phone? Is it splashing out on fancy billboards or social media? Find out what works for you. And when I say what works for you, not just what gets you people responding, but also that you get energy from. Because if you're running your own business, you have to do this every day. So don't pick something that drains you full of energy. So that's a learning curve, because you can tell yourself, oh, I love picking up the phone. But if after a month you're doing it and you're like, oh, I have to pick up the phone, that's not the thing for you. So I worked out what I liked and what was the best way to get people to respond to me and get it.
What was that for you specifically?
So for me, here's the secret. For me, it's voice notes, right? The power
Really?
of warm and personalized voice note to a prospective person. Do you know what? It gets a very high response rate. It gets a coffee with them. If I get a coffee with 10 people, I will guaranteed find a piece of work, right? It's that simple. So every day of my first cup of coffee, I send 25 to 30 voice notes. Every day I get 20 responses back. I'll get 10 coffees. I'll get a piece of work. Just keep that going. I love it. I do it anyway. I was doing it for years for all my friends, for their birthdays, for things. So why not do it for, prospective clients?
I love that. I love that so much. Like finding like what you enjoy also together with what you're good at and what makes you money to like really build that business, right? Like you said, so that way you always have that energy. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now like to that COVID time, like what happened business during
Okay.
COVID time?
So during COVID time, like I said, everything fell off a cliff. You couldn't be having those coffees, or you could have those coffees, but it couldn't be about work, right? People were in shock. Companies were laying off people. They were putting them on furlough. It's not a time to sell as much as I'd like to. So there's two sides of it, right? Don't, still keep the engine going so people, when they're ready to buy. So, I use that time to tighten up my messaging, to improve my products. But also the other side is you've got to keep yourself occupied, right? It's tough mentally for all of us. So I developed routines. I picked up, you'll love it. I picked up random hobbies, right? Every month I challenged myself to a new hobby, something I'd never done before. And I'd spend at least 2 hours a day doing it, right? So I learned how to code. So I'd never known how to code. I learned how to do yoga. I learned how to sketch classes. I followed like live classes on YouTube. I learned a new language.
I love how like they're all such different things, and you're like such a good example of really going out and doing new challenging things, right? Like purposely putting yourself in new situations. It's so awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm crazy like that. My friends around me, every month I still do a challenge, right? I do stupid things like I learned to use my mouse left-handed, right? Because I read an article once that it increases your productivity by 10% because you can then type with your right hand simultaneously, if you're right-handed, that is. So I'll always look to do stuff. I love, I read at least an hour a day and I get ideas and I try them out because that's the way you actually active learning, it's called, right? Instead of just reading something, do something with it. When you read it, go practice it, go teach somebody else it. Right. So it doesn't matter. Some months the challenge doesn't work, but other months I get something so valuable from it.
So awesome. I love that. I love that so much. And then what happened once like to business? Like what did you do to help you be successful once COVID did end, or once, or at least you're able to start rebuilding?
Yeah, so like I say, I mean, some of it was a little bit of fortune, but I was ready. You make your own fortune sometimes. So I was ready to pounce when people were ready to buy again. So I really fired up those conversations. I was a lot slicker on what I wanted to say because I've been practicing it for 6 months. And I got I got a piece of work that then turned into another piece of work, and I managed to spin that and publicize it. So it just created this sort of flywheel where the business began to grow and grow. And so then that brought other challenges, right? I needed a team to help me deliver. I needed to, I needed to hire people to do all the admin side of things. So but these are lovely challenges to have, right? With a growing business.
Yeah, you always want bigger challenges, right?
Well, yeah, that's another conversation. The economics of expectations, right? Be careful of, wanting too much too soon.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're not, we're always going to have challenges in life. So
Yeah.
the question is if you want challenges of like not having clients, or you want challenges of like having to manage a team, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Have the good headaches, not the bad headaches.
Yeah,
Is what,
exactly.
yeah.
So what do you
Mm.
find the most challenging in business right now? Like what are you currently trying to work out?
So what I'm trying to currently work out, so any small business or any bigger business, and one of the biggest challenges is matching supply to demand, right? So at different points, you're never going to get it right. Either you're going to be doing too much work because you've got too much in, or you take on an extra person or something, or you invest in something and you've got too much capacity, and then you're worried like, oh, how am I going to keep that person busy, or how am I going to, right? It's very rare that the two perfectly match and you can just be like, oh, right. So that's a perpetual challenge. And for me personally, I've reached a point in my business that a lot of it relies on me, right? Which is what happens with early stage growth, which is great, but there's a risk there, right? If everything just flows through me, what if I fall ill, or having a bad week, or heaven forbid anything worse, then it would really stop. So I'm starting to think, how do I deal with that? And it's about it's the next step to growing a team is getting a partner, getting someone to help shoulder these burdens with me. But again, that's a nice headache to have, and it's a natural growth inflection point for the business.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm curious as to when you say partner, do you mean like an actual business partner, or is that like just a higher position in your business?
I'm thinking an actual business partner, right? Because you think about what motivates people. Somebody who will be just as motivated as me and they have some skin in the game, but also they bring a range of different their network and their contacts and their opportunities. Because the thing about when you bring in employees, they just they don't necessarily think about that to the same level of hunger as someone else who actually has something at risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any like potential partners? I don't know if you could say this or just about this.
Let's just
Not
say
not
I'm
names of people, but I'm just curious, like where along this process are you?
I'm perpetually scanning everyone I ever meet. And
Okay.
the best way to work it out is do it, is try it out. Right. So I've got over this summer, a couple of trials where, because, it's easy to go all in, but if you don't really, how much do you really know about how the other person will be, even if they were your best friend, for example, you probably haven't seen your best friend work and their work, you know them in a personal. So it far better. And I do this with every employee, right? Instead of hiring them straight out, I said, just come for 2 months. I'll pay you for 2 months. Let's see how you get on. I'll give you a specific project. That's your interview. That's your test, rather than I'll
No
ask you
interview at all. Or is that like after?
very little, right? You need a little bit of screening process, otherwise you get a total member. But most people I work with or bring on board, I've known for a while anyway. So that's
Okay.
kind of like the screening process. But ultimately, get working together. Right. They always say a successful relationship is one where you stop looking each other in the eye and you both look at the same thing together and work on it together. Right. And that's anything. So that could be a romantic relationship as well. Right. Yeah, that's my way of finding a partner. I've got a few trials over the summer. So who knows? Maybe towards the end of the year, it might look differently. Might have cracked that problem.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much, Faris, for being here. I'm super grateful for you giving us your time today. Where can we connect with you and learn more about you?
Oh, well, I'd love to carry on the conversation with each of your listeners. There's two places that I suggest. Well, actually, there's a few more. But number one, look up my company website. So the company I run is a company called Shiageto. And Shiageto is the Japanese word for a sharpening stone, because that's effectively what we do. Just that if you have a dull knife, use a Shiageto. If you've gone a little bit dull yourself, use our company Shiageto to make you sharper. And that's Shiageto. Shiageto.com. The other place is look me up on LinkedIn. I spend a disproportionately large amount of time on there. Faris Aranki,
I love all your voice notes.
and you might get a voice note if you do connect with me, right? So that's the place to be. Yeah, and through there you can find my blogging website, links to Instagram, where I also share a lot of the journey that I go on. So yeah, lots of opportunities, and I'd love to hear from all your listeners.
Thank you so much, Faris. This is awesome.